Hey, this is Jeff, and welcome back to the Point Lookout No-Kill Run. Last week I noticed that intercom after I blew up the propane cylinder in the west wing, and it didn't do anything. I loaded an earlier save just to satisfy my curiosity, and guess what?
Hurry and seal that hole from the attic. If you don't have any grenades, then see if there's something nearby you can shoot that will explode.
Before you complete the objective, it does. We now rejoin your regularly scheduled program. I forgot a couple things before I signed off last time. First, I didn't loot the tribals Desmond killed, and right here's a lever-action rifle, one of the new weapons added by the DLC. Like the double-barrel shotgun, it's a pretty sweet option for ballistic weapon users, but useless for loos. We have a couple pounds of carry capacity left, so we'll take it as a souvenir. I really came back for the loot I stashed in that desk, just in case I got over-encumbered in the east wing. And speaking of looting, the area around the collapsed floor trap is sealed off now, but after the final attack is repelled, you can still access most of the mansion, including all of the west wing, and going through the east wing you can still get to the basement, kitchen, and pantry, but everything between the kitchen and the room where you blow up the propane tank is inaccessible unless you use console commands to unlock the doors or turn off clipping. The collapsing floor trap might be sealed off now because it only works once. When I talked about the mod details for several PAM features in the base game, I showed how to handle triggers that need to work once or only during certain quest stages, but the collapsing floor sequence is pretty complicated. They might have thought, better safe than sorry. Not sure why they sealed off the rec room with the pool table, but bottom line, if you're determined to pick up every single piece of loot in the building, make sure you grab everything in that room before the final battle. All those pool accessories now lost forever. Finally, Desmond mentioned having a safe room last week, and I'd expect the hatch to be somewhere in the vicinity of this generator. The in-game reason I think that is that he'd want to put his command center where he had easy access to the safe room in an emergency. The meta reason would be a major spoiler, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. I debated whether to even bring it up because it's kind of nitpicky, but the DLC does a lot of foreshadowing, so I looked around just in case there was something that hinted at a concealed door, even if it wasn't usable at this point, but I didn't find anything. Anyway, Luce is pretty excited about joining another cult, so let's get this loot sorted and get on with it. Fission batteries and yeast go in the hotel room. Souvenirs to take home go on the boat, plus blood packs for Vance, sugar bombs for Murphy, that kind of thing. I collect that stuff and then never remember to deliver it, but it could happen. And talk to Madam Panada to get rid of the stuff I only picked up to sell.
Welcome, traveler. Stop by and have a look at the wares. The fates have told me that you have a need. Well, hello there, young traveler. The fates had told me that I would receive a visitor today. But I'm being rude. I am Madam Panada, and this is Madam Panada's House of Wares. For all things a traveler needs, I am here to provide. Bullets, stim packs, armor, weapons, junk. If you need it, Madam Panada has already anticipated your need and procured it months ago.
Show me what you have for sale.
I knew that's why you came to me.
Huh. I would have sworn she had more caps than most vendors, but apparently not. It's not like we have that much to sell. I should probably start sneaking once we're past the motel. I should probably sneak everywhere, but it's reasonably safe in town, and I'm not that patient. There's a covered bridge up here where we'll get the first real test of the stealth suit against swamp folk. We saw one on the way to the mansion last week, but we didn't get that close. It was 100% effective against the tribals, but they're human NPCs, and the swamp folk are technically creatures as far as the game is concerned, even though lore-wise they're just severely mutated humans. That sign will confirm we're going the right way. Arkandove Cathedral this way. Anyway, the swamp folk have a camp on the bridge. There's the cathedral itself, but I do not see any at the moment. It won't look a gift horse in the mouth. Might even take the unexpected opportunity to do some looting. Well, there's our first punga fruit. I've probably walked right by a dozen of them already, but I'm not going to be obsessive about collecting them all. Just enough to make a batch or two of moonshine. which requires more than you might expect, but there are a few particularly high-density locations, some of which we'll probably be visiting today. And there are the swamp folk. They have no idea we're here, which is not unexpected, but good to have confirmation. Luz senses the presence of a friendly soul nearby, most likely in that little shack just across the water from the road to the cathedral. So let's pop a little Rad-X and see who's over there. There are also some definitely unfriendly souls, and I'm less worried about the rads than how deep the water is. As long as we're wading, it's fine, but if it's deep enough to put us into swim mode, it's like standing up and the stealth field turns off. And as you might expect in a swamp, there's water everywhere, and it's hard to tell how deep it is until you're in it. And here we have Marguerite's Moonshiner Shack. No, I don't want to pickpocket her.
My, look at you. You ain't have the look of a local young lady. Think you could help a sick woman get on the mend?
Let's not be rude. You're sick? What's the matter?
Reckon it's the orange fever. I do feel light in my head.
And with good enough medicine skill, I've treated enough illnesses to know there's no such thing as orange fever.
Now that is just an awfully rude thing to say, sweetie.
Automatic success on the speech challenge. I'm no stranger to the con games, sweetie. We both know you're faking. Let's cut to the chase.
Oh, fine, maybe you're no hog's fool, but I reckon we both come out better if you can help me cook up some tonic.
Before we get to that, I saw you're still on the way in. Could stand to be fixed up.
Could it now? I suppose you'd know how to see to that, wouldn't you?
In fact, I do. I'll get it working like new, but I want 200 caps.
I reckon you got a deal, sweetie, but I better notice a difference in the tonic.
I'm going to be really embarrassed if this skill check is harder than I remembered. Nope, repair 44. I think Luz has 70 right now, which we could get up to 75 with the Vault utility suit. Or 80 with the workman's coveralls, which I left on the boat. But anyway, perform the needed repairs.
Thanks for mending the still, sweetie. For this fee, the tonic had better taste like honey, though.
We'll see. Let's talk about this tonic.
Secret family technique. Been so for generations. Help me brew some up by gathering ingredients. I'll share the batch to make it worth your while and sweeten the deal with 300 caps.
Okay, I'll bite. What do we need?
This and that. Let me know when you want to work out the details.
No time like the present. What do you need?
There aren't too many ingredients, but I brew large batches, so we need a good bit of each. We'll need punga fruit, yeast, and some fishing batteries for that extra little kick.
Tell me about punga fruit.
Punga fruit, and lots of it. The stuff those loonies make at the church is best. 10 of those will do, but might cost you. Wild fruit will do the trick, but you'll need twice as much of it.
You mentioned yeast?
Well, we'll need yeast. You can find it about anywhere, but there's a big stash on the boardwalk. 3 sacks is enough.
And batteries for extra kick?
You best keep this one to yourself, sweetie. The family tonic gets real kick from our secret ingredient. We need just a little bit of battery acid. Oh, don't look like that now. You reckon I'd be around to tell you about it if it weren't safe enough? Bring me 6 fishing batteries and I'll scrape 'em into the mix.
Okay.
I thought you'd never ask.
All right, I'll be back later.
Don't be a stranger now.
Now, right up the road, there's a little pre-war police or military checkpoint, and smugglers frequently spawn around there. Smugglers are a new faction in the DLC, but they're not as distinctive as swamp folk or tribals. Another sign for the cathedral. They're basically the same as Talonmercs back home. Similar weapons and armor, but they're hostile to everybody regardless of karma. In fact, they can also spawn back closer to Marguerite's shack, and then they usually get into it with the swamp folk that hang around back there. I always thought it was kind of weird that they're called smugglers. Like, who do they have to smuggle anything past? It's not like the Brotherhood of Steel is going to arrest them for not paying import fees if they haul punga fruit back to the capital wasteland. There's nothing that even remotely resembles a centralized authority around here. Maybe we're supposed to assume they're from some other settlement along the coast. Tobar mentions a few places he's visited, and there are probably more, so I guess it could be something like that. If you know any more about the lore behind them, let me know in the comments. And we've discovered truck wreckage. Sounds interesting. If you go straight to the lighthouse when you arrive, which a lot of people probably do because it's such a prominent landmark, there's a note that explains it's not working because they were waiting for a replacement bulb that never showed up. And I think there's a hint about the delivery route that would lead you here. But it doesn't break anything if you find this first. Anyway, all the way at the back, there's the lighthouse bulb. We'll just take that. It's worth noting that it's not marked as a quest item, so you can drop it, sell it, use it as a decoration in your player home, or accidentally lose it. So just be careful if you pick it up before you're ready to restore the lighthouse. Now, you may have noticed that I have the ghoul mask equipped. I'm hardly the first to point this out, but the stealth armor is kind of weird in that the helmet is integrated. It's not a separate item like with power armor, but it doesn't prevent you from equipping most other headgear. In some cases, the game actually applies both models at the same time, and the results can range from goofy to actually looking kind of cool, but the ghoul mask completely replaces the stealth armor helmet. Wearing it, or any other headgear, doesn't hurt the stealth field, which, like I said, combined with the silent running perk, theoretically makes us completely undetectable, but better safe than sorry. You know, if I stand up or accidentally bump into something, it will notice us, and this way, at least ghouls won't be hostile. I bring it up because there are some in the graveyard beside the cathedral, and there's a new variant in Point Lookout, which came out after Broken Steel, so the first time I saw a swamp ghoul, I was kind of freaked out. Like, seriously? Reavers weren't bad enough? Which was an epic fake out because their stats are actually identical to a basic feral. One of the rare times in the DLC when a new creature isn't a terrifying god-tier boss, or at least tough enough to be a challenge for a player who presumably already beat the base game. I just thought it was a nice touch. And if I can find one, we'll take a look at it. It's just another roamer. Here we go. Not really that different from a regular feral, mostly just different coloration. There are lots of other places with ghouls in Point Lookout, but this was probably the safest to take a close look. Down in the swamp, there's always the chance that they'll get into it with swamp folk or whatever, and I don't want to be caught gawking in the middle of something like that. Now, the cathedral.
Hark! Who goes there? Who lingers at the threshold of transcendence?
Some people might take this option as being deceptive, but with Luz, it's completely sincere. I seek the wisdom of your people. May I join your tribe?
What's this? A humble traveler, seeking the guidance of our awakened minds. Truly, this is a glorious day. You are from far away, and must be strong indeed to have traveled this far. But strength is nothing without the guidance of the enlightened mind. If you seek entry, you must be prepared to expand your consciousness. You must prove yourself worthy to transcend.
She definitely wouldn't equate enlightenment with victory. I've integrated elements of many faiths into my personal philosophy, but I'm not sure I am worthy. Tell me more.
Your caution is a credit to your wisdom. Only a fool eats before he knows the meal. You are worthy to attempt the ritual of the Mother Seed. Venture west to the Great Bog, and within you shall find the mother of all punga fruit. She stands taller than a man, and her vines guide our future. Collect her seeds, and kneel before her wisdom. Only then will you be ready to enter these sacred halls.
Okay, that sounds totally awesome. She's doing that right now. What's the closest map marker? Looks like Marguerite's. Okay, start there. Oh, it's a little closer than I wanted to get to this swamp folk. It's a lot closer. Yeah, if we bump into one of them, we're in a world of hurt. Thanks to the comments for reminding me of something that I forgot to mention last week. The reason swamp folk and tribals do so much damage isn't because they carry the new DLC weapons. Well, a lot of them do, but that's not the whole reason. I think that one just had a vanilla hunting rifle. The main reason is that they're scripted to do a flat 35 hit points of bonus damage that completely ignores your damage resistance, whether from armor, the toughness perk, med-X, anything. So even if your DR is at the cap of 85 and only one hit point of their base damage gets through, you're going to take 36. And that adds up in a hurry, especially if your build is a tank and you're in the habit of just shrugging off the bullets. This would be a bad time to get into deep water and break stealth, but I don't really want to go back toward them. Well, cross your fingers. Good. Now, I think right around here somewhere. Yeah, that's it. We saw one of those little geyser hot spring things last week. There are 3 big ones scattered around the map, and this is one of them. They're related to a side quest, and we'll find another one of them during a different side quest. The third we might have to chalk up to Luz's psychic powers. That is a Reaver. Didn't see us, but I'm definitely glad we have the ghoul mask. Anyway, the 3 locations all have a ladder to go down into an excavated muck hole. Very pleasant. Take some rad-X. They're heavily irradiated. The 2 main things of note in each location are a holotape and a new weapon. Biogas canisters, which create a gas cloud wherever you throw them, which works exactly like the gas traps you see all the time in dungeons. If you shoot an energy weapon or flame-based weapon into it, it explodes and does damage to everything in its radius, including you if you're standing in it. I won't listen to the holotape until I get the other 2, so we can listen to them in order. We'll definitely use a bridge when there is one. That probably means the water's deep enough to put you into swim mode. And I think that's the grower's shack. Yeah. There's a ton of punga fruit and some interesting stuff inside, but it's also close quarters. I'll probably come back later to show you the unique loot, but I don't want to bump into somebody and stir up a hornet's nest when we're this close to the sacred bog. There's a swarm of bloatflies around the bog entrance, and while they'd normally stand no chance of detecting us, we need to walk through the middle of them. The way they flit around, one of them is bound to bump into us, so instead of trying to dodge, I'm just going to grab as much punga fruit as I can and make a dash for the door when it finally happens. Danger. Time to go. That's not yeast. There's nothing in here, and bloatflies can't use doors, but it still might take a minute for the game to officially put us back into hidden status. This is just a transition zone. There's a door at the other end that opens into the bog proper, right up there. Presumably because a door directly connecting 2 exterior areas in the wilderness wouldn't make a lot of sense. Punga fruit. And an axe. Another one of the weapons added by the DLC. Pretty nice if you're a melee weapon specialist. Not particularly interesting to lose. Turn off the light before, there are mirelurks all over the place in here. Oh! I just realized that's a scenario I never tested in the sneak and detection analysis. Does a stealth field negate the light penalty, or vice versa, or is the relationship more complicated than that? Well, there's one for the to-do list. I don't think there's any water deep enough to throw us into swim mode in here, but I'm going to stick to dry ground as much as possible. The bog is mostly linear, even though some parts are big and wide open, so if you're not paying attention to the compass, you can get turned around anyway. But right up here is the one exception. The high route is dry, but it has a mini-boss, The low route lets you bypass that, but you take more rads because you're wading the whole way. I'm going to go the dry way. There was a regular Mirelurk right in the middle of the low route, but I'm really more worried about deep water throwing us into swim mode and breaking stealth. And I'm not worried about the boss as long as we don't physically bump into it. It's a Swamp Lurk, which is basically a reskinned Mirelurk King, but instead of a Sonic Blast, their range attack is a Toxic Spit. But it did not see us. The path from the low route comes out right up here. If you go that way. So you'd be well past the Swamp Lurk. Anyway, this next section is a campsite with some bear traps, or presumably Mirelurk traps. I think there's at least one dead smuggler in the bog too, but the decorations are what you typically see around swamp folk camps and homes. There's a swamp folk trapper's shack not too far from here, and they definitely hunt Mirelurks. And if that's the business you're in, this is the place to come. I don't know if the swamp folk killed the smugglers because they don't like them poaching their game, or if the Mirelurks got them, but something like that is going on. Maybe that's what they're smuggling, trying to sneak Mirelurk meat past the swamp folk. And who could blame them? Because crab is delicious. Well, that could be a problem. Might be able to climb these rocks to get around it. Yeah, easy peasy. Had to say something. Well, it might be okay if we hug the cliff. They probably won't wander that far off the path without incentive. Yeah, looks like they're going to hang out there. We're close to the end. Yeah. I think the cliff hugging strategy is probably a good idea overall. It's not that their AI couldn't have them wander over here, it's just that the perimeter of their wander radius is a larger surface area than the middle, so the chances that they'll randomly pick the exact spot we're in is lower. And obviously, when there's a rock to get on top of, they can't bump into us even if they do. And there's some punga out here, too. And that is the entrance to the grove where the mother punga is. I've never seen them up there unless they're chasing you, so I think we're home free. There's a ludicrous amount of punga in here, and I usually take it all, but Luce has strength 1, so her carry capacity is terrible, and I think she'd be more ecologically conscious than that anyway. Harvest sustainably. And there's the mother punga. It is indeed taller than a man as described, and we just need to pick some of the seed pods. So let's do that. And it emits some kind of gas, or maybe spores, and we get knocked briefly unconscious. Or maybe not that briefly, because in a minute the lighting changes and things look a bit different. Can't pick the punga. I don't think you can pick it. I might have just missed it. No, can't pick it. It becomes apparent pretty quickly that this is all a hallucination from inhaling whatever the mother punga sprayed at us. Bobblehead. You've found a Schmaltech limited edition Bubblehead. The inscription on the base reads, "Walked right into another trap. Exactly how stupid are you?" These are amusing parodies of the actual special bobbleheads in the base game, and depending on how you're role-playing your Lone Wanderer, they may or may not feel relevant. But Luce, she's enough of a scientist not to reflexively assume tripping on punga does or does not have any supernatural significance. This is one situation you're not going to be able to fight your way out of. Not that Luce ever fights her way out of any situation. I mean, psychic powers and unexplained phenomena are a thing in the Fallout universe, but at a minimum, she would interpret these as profound insights coming straight out of her subconscious. Keep it up, you're almost there. Wherever there may be, probably nowhere. That one turns out to be surprisingly accurate in a cryptic way. Ghostly hacksaw sawing the earth. That probably means something important. Something we may not want to know, but we'll find out soon enough. Nuka-Cola quantums falling out of nowhere, making tiny mushroom clouds and baby noises when they hit the ground. You could analyze this symbolism. Infantile greed leads to destruction, maybe. Like, who doesn't get that, ooh, quantum feeling when you see a bottle of quantum? But whatever it means, it's pretty cool. There are also ghouls that disappear when they get close, which is a lot scarier when you're not wearing the ghoul mask. A design oversight or an indication that subconsciously you no longer find them threatening? Who can say? And this is extremely cool. The campsite with the Mirelurk traps is now completely inverted. The campfire should be up there somewhere. Yeah, there it is. I've never figured out how they did this. I mean, making an environment with a dramatically non-standard orientation isn't that hard. I've done it myself in Coito Ergo Sum, but switching it on the fly is tricky. This doesn't look right. Not right at all. No, it doesn't. In an interior cell, you could use a script to disable one set of room objects and enable a set that's rotated 180 degrees, and set up a trigger so the player's guaranteed to be looking the other way when you do it. But how they switched an exterior world space from right side up to upside down on the fly with no loading screen in between, that's what stumps me. Now we have a giant needle sewing the earth. Kind of similar to the ghost hacksaw, but what does it all mean? Well, if my kid looked like that, I'd abandon it too. Harsh, but fair. I said in episode 1 of the base game that Luz's kleptomania might be because Dad abandons her twice before the tutorial's even over, and then he dies halfway through the main quest, but she never really processed Mom dying during childbirth. Visions of more dead friends and acquaintances. Well, Mom allegedly died in childbirth. I made a video about why I don't 100% believe that, and it's actually related to Point Lookout. I'll put a link in the description. Dead mother, life in a post-nuclear wasteland, and not a friend in it. Yeah, you aren't exactly blessed. I mean, Luz would say she has a lot of friends, but she's stolen from most of them, so how close are they really? And Mr. Burke there in the background is the icing on the cake. She flirted with him to resolve Power of the Atom peacefully, and he fell in love with her, so while she doesn't exactly feel guilty about manipulating a genocidal dick, it certainly wasn't an open and honest relationship either.
Congratulations, my dear. You're going to pull through, and everything will be right as rain. No, don't try and get up yet. You'll only hurt yourself.
And as you might guess, that means we're regaining consciousness. We'll just have to get far enough away from these bloatflies to fast travel and hope we don't run into anything that's actually dangerous in the meantime. Well, that's not good. Well, that's not good at all. Oh, apparently he wasn't after us. He must be going after the bloatflies. Nice. And we're back to hidden. We must have been technically still in combat with the bloatflies, but we weren't detected by the brawler, and once they engaged him, we were clear. I'll take it. Can we fast travel yet? Yes, we can. Excellent.
You are welcome to our tribe.
Better and better.
Truly the Mother Punga has bestowed her wisdom upon you, and your mind has been expanded.
Did it work? Is the ritual complete?
For a time, we feared your mind had journeyed too far from your body, and you had departed our world. But you returned to us again, at long last. Yea, though your body will bear the scars of the ritual, your soul shall be forever strengthened by the experience. You are now welcome in our cathedral. Enter, enlightened sister.
The Punga Power perk has been added. You receive better effects from eating Punga fruit. Cool. So, what does your tribe believe in?
We espouse the expansion of the perfect mind and the rejection of the corrupt physical. The material world is destroyed and imperfect. We seek to release our minds from their tainted cages so as to find a better world.
So like a radicalized version of Oasis, magic tree and everything. I dig those guys, but why did you attack the mansion?
Our most enlightened one divined that the fates themselves did decree the mansion must be burnt to the ground.
About that enlightened one, who leads this tribe?
Leader? That would be Jackson, a man of great wisdom. He has withdrawn to his cavern of communion, the better to contemplate the unknowable. Only the righteous are trusted to know where this nexus of understanding lies. And alas, I am not so blessed.
He already said he doesn't know where he is, so I have to go now.
Be well.
And we level up. I knew we were getting pretty close to level 16, so I should have thought about this in advance, but I didn't, so excuse me for a minute. I had left a few skills just shy of 100, just in case we found the right skill books, but there aren't any in the DLC, and I'm not going to go back and scour the base game for them at this point, so I'll just max out the really important ones. Lockpick, Science, and Speech. Then put the rest in barter. Getting better prices never hurts. And now the perk. The really good one that unlocks at level 16 is Action Girl, but it's useless for Lose. Hold on. We already missed most of the good opportunities to use Child at Heart in the base game, but there is one in this DLC, so why not? Well, Marguerite mentioned that they grow the best Punga fruit here, and it does come in 2 varieties. The wild kind we've seen so far, and the refined Punga that's mostly here in the garden and inside the cathedral. I'm going to pick enough to make a batch of moonshine, but this is actually a good place to call it a day, and we'll go inside and track down the cult leader next week. How many do we need? That's 10 of the refined, 20 of the wild. All right, 6 more. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you haven't already. Leave a comment if you have questions, suggestions, anything I missed, and I'll see you soon.